Man, what a year in film 2023 was. Big films from big directors, lots of big franchises underperforming, watching the Marvel Cinematic Universe do the unthinkable and stumble, and watching the DCEU collapse entirely. The main tentpoles that Hollywood relies on are not holding the industry up like they used to, so we're going to have to start seeing some real changes in the industry to find out what makes today's movie-going public show up. Hopefully, the resolution of the writers and actors strike will bring out some of the business, but first expect a rough 2024. Even still, quality films were released, and I tried to see all that I could for this list, but my to-see list is still way longer than my saw list, but I do need to get this video out sooner rather than later. Here are some movies that I wish I saw, so that's why they aren't on my list. First, some honorable mentions. Super Mario Bros. I'm just glad they finally made a Super Mario Bros. Movie that really feels like the game. It's very much a kid's movie and is paced like one, but it really did bring the kid out of me, so that's fun. Guardians of the Galaxy 3. Often very sad, if not a touch predictable, James Gunn's Guardian movies have been the surprise hit of the MCU, and this one I don't feel disappoints. Gran Turismo. The script is a bit flimsy and paint by numbers, but wow does Neil Blomkamp direct this film with gusto. Between him and David Harbour's performance, this smart video game flick is way better than it ought to be. Elemental. An imaginative world and a funny script take a flimsy concept and elevate it with that Pixar touch. It's just an above average piece for Pixar, but that still counts as better than most animated flicks out there. Blue Beetle. I'm still not really sure if this is part of the end of the DCEU or the beginning of the new DC movie series, but it doesn't matter too much because Blue Beetle stands on its own 2 feet and is self-contained enough that you can just watch it. The story isn't much special, but the characters and their interactions really make the movie better than just okay. Number 10. Theater Camp. I can't help it, but I had a huge laugh while watching Theater Camp. This should have been a huge hit on the indie circuit, but sadly, the madness that was the Oppenheimer phenomenon took all the screens and basically sucked the air out of the room for any other films to flourish. Theater Camp was just one casualty. But anyway, as I was a theater kid growing up, I can't help but be tickled at this mockumentary of a camp run by eccentrics and artists, none of whom have any sense of how to actually run a business. Despite being very hyperbolized, these characters are believable and relatable. Even characters you didn't think you would attach to, like Troy, you really start to sympathize with and root for. Honestly, I had a great time with this one, and some of the writing is just hysterical. Number 9. Oppenheimer. I can already see so many people outraged by the placement of a Christopher Nolan film in the bottom half of a top 10, but I have to be true to my gut on this one. I really liked Oppenheimer. I mean, it's still here, isn't it? But I guess I just didn't connect with it on that emotional level that my absolute top favorites movies did. But I can definitely say that it's got a great performance from a great cast, including a career best from Cillian Murphy, one of my favorite actors ever, and Nolan is in top form. It certainly stimulated me on an intellectual level, and it fascinated me. Top marks all around. But there was some emotional component that just didn't quite hit. Maybe I'll change my mind if I see it again, but for now, the movie will just have to drown its sorrows with the mountain of money that it made and the awards that it's raking in. Number 8. Across the Spiderverse. Miles Morales and Gwen Stacy reunite in Across the Spiderverse, the sequel to the surprise hit of 2018. A film that was way better than anyone expected it to be, so to maintain that momentum, they had to get it right again. And they mostly did. There's still loads of great comedy and emotional moments, plus the movie looks absolutely stunning, even better than its predecessor. It really is an astounding job this team is doing. I'd put the movie higher, but unlike the first film, this one doesn't work well as a self-contained story. It really needs that third part for it to all come together, so without that, we're keeping it a little lower on the list. Still, it makes me excited to see where the story goes, and I'm willing to wait as long as it takes for the next movie to be made under ethical working conditions. Number 7. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem. This is kind of a surprise to me. Unlike basically everyone else in my generation, I didn't really grow up as a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles fanboy. Obviously I knew of it, I saw some of the cartoon and the first 2 movies, but I just wasn't as engaged with it as my peers. I've never had anything against the Turtles, but I was just very casual in my appreciation. But man, Mutant Mayhem is loads of fun. They finally age the Turtles right, making them actual teenagers. They bring them more into the modern day with current technology and more modern teen issues, and just works really well. It's about kids seeking a sense of belonging and community, trying to overcome a culture of fear. It's hilarious, it's heartwarming, it's absolutely amazing visually, probably up there with the 1990 original film as one of the best Ninja Turtle films out there. Number 6. Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret. Talk about a movie that I underestimated. I watched it based on a passing remark from a reviewer about how it took him by surprise, but even then I thought it was going to be a very okay movie. But here I am, a guy in my 30s, really connecting to a film about a preteen girl trying to navigate her changing life. And it just took me right back to the late 90s when I was a preteen, as we were all so eager to grow up, not understanding that those last years of childhood were ever so precious. While not particularly ambitious on a technical or even storytelling level, I honestly have no notes to the filmmakers. While I haven't read the book this is based off of, it's clearly respectable source material and probably adapted as well as it could have been. You know, when they say they don't make films like this anymore, this isn't usually the kind of movie that they're referring to, but they really don't make this kind of film anymore. It's got after-school special vibes, but like if it were done by A-list talent. Rachel McAdams and Kathy Bates have little to gain from jumping into a project like this, but they're here and they don't phone it in. They give earnest performances and elevate the material, especially McAdams. Like, wow, she does a great job. And Abby Ryder-Fortson really hits it out of the park as Margaret. I'd love to see more mid-budget family films of this caliber out there, so I recommend everyone check out this film and give it some support because it feels like a family film that could have some lasting power and mean a lot to people as they're growing up. Number 5. Poor Things. This is one I definitely do not recommend for kids. This otherworldly absurdist think piece by Yorgos Lanthimos is quite explicit, but has so much to say on capitalism, sexuality, and the perception of youth. Bella is truly a one-of-a-kind character. Part Frankenstein's monster, part Drax, part Mary from There's Something About Mary. Well, the last one mostly because guys instantly lust after her the moment that they see her. Willem Dafoe's Godwin Baxter may be one of the most hilarious characters I've seen in a movie. It's not a particularly understated performance, but it really showed what a person with an abusive and disturbing childhood might end up like if they were trying to do good things. He's not a bad person, but he makes questionable decisions because of his detachment from reality. But of course, this film is Emma Stone's. She plays Bella, and seeing her grow up and learn is really something to behold. I loved his film The Lobster, and I like The Favorite, and more I'm seeing Yorgos Lanthimos as one of the most creative, visionary filmmakers of this era. He's a director not for everyone, but for those willing to venture out and try films that are a little more strange and hostile, I think his work could be for you. Especially Poor Things, which is easily his most imaginative, visually stunning, and fully realized work so far. Number 4. Dungeons & Dragons: Honor Among Thieves. Now, here's another one I didn't see coming. I'm not a huge D&D nut, but that doesn't really matter. This film is just as accessible to the non-initiated. The script is delightfully clever, the story has heart, the cast is clearly having a great time making it. And frankly, it's great to see some new fantasy in film, especially fantasy that's not taking itself too seriously. I saw a hardcore D&D fan call to boycott the film because he thought this movie would make it go too mainstream and take a special game, and make it into something that people wear on t-shirts and hats and whatever. And to him I say, shut up and stop trying to gatekeep. Honor Among Thieves is a good movie, and talented people worked hard to make it come together really nicely, and I watched it for my birthday and laughed my head off. Everyone should go watch it. Number 3. The Creator. From director Gareth Edwards, we have a unique and original science fiction story about the US going on a genocidal hunt to eliminate all artificial life forms off the planet after there was an atrocity allegedly committed by one. Admittedly, it borrows a bit from some other sci-fi films, and it definitely has some District 9 vibes, but honestly, I'll take it. I'm just glad to see a movie in theaters that wasn't from a pre-established property or part of a larger franchise. And it was a masterful stroke for him to keep the budget under control at an estimated $80 million. Well, it looks as good or better than some $200 million pictures that came out this year. I think it's a real shame this underperformed at the box office, so I would encourage you, if you get the chance, to give it some love and support because it really is a poignant and beautiful film. Number 2, Godzilla Minus One. All you need to do to get a film in my best of list is to have Godzilla in it, but they sure made it even easier to place high on my list by making it so good. Like, it's one of the only Godzilla films where I'm just as invested in the human story as I am in the monster smashy smash stuff. Following a disgraced kamikaze pilot after World War II, disgraced because, as you see, he's still alive, he finds a woman and an abandoned baby in his hometown that was destroyed in the fire raids. So to rebuild his life, he takes a job to find disarmed mines still in the ocean, so boats don't stumble upon them now that the war is over. But of course, a monster from his past stomps onto land, only he's bigger and more dangerous than ever. It's Godzilla, and he's very stompy and very angry. It's a great film and definitely one that tackles the Godzilla story in full earnest. It's a solid new take on the franchise, and I'm excited to see what they come up with next. Number 1, Blackberry. Finally, Canadian director Matt Johnson is getting his big break. I have been championing his debut film, The Dirties, since I saw it at the Vancouver International Film Festival 10-ish years ago. Eesh. So now he's got some big names in the mix and is making a somewhat true story about how the Blackberry phone rose and fell during the 2000s. It's a story about the rivaling concepts of capitalism, finding a line between quality product and the realistic compromises we have to make when a small venture becomes a global product. And for those who are more interested in the innovations and the reliability of their creation, compromises can hit on a moral level. I don't think I made this sound particularly entertaining to watch, but fortunately, it's often hilarious, manages to make a tech startup story compelling on an emotional level, and wow, what a powerful turn from Glenn Howerton. Blackberry boasts a cast as diverse as YouTube's very own Sungwon, all the way to genre veterans like Michael Ironside. Everyone brings their A-game. This film is the real deal, and I hope all involved capitalize on it, especially Matt Johnson, who needs more fans. Seriously, everyone, watch his movies. I'm not sure what singularly makes this my pick for the best film of the year, but all I can say was it really stuck with me, and I thought of it often after watching it. Anyway, those are my picks. Let me know in the comments down below what your favorite films were of 2023, and we'll have a chat about it. Thanks so much for watching, and stay tuned for more. Have a good one.